Yeah. Awesome, baby. Luyan. Mambo Kings.
What's good? This is your boy Tico Tren. And the title of this video is going to be Nothing New Under the Sun. And what I mean by that, because nowadays everybody's shocked by this Me Too movement and believe her and this hashtag believe her stuff and this whole entire rape culture. Like, people are like apparently caught off guard by this, which I really don't really find which I find kind of shocking because, like I said, the name of the title, Nothing New Under the Sun. And what I mean by that is all this hashtag believer, Me Too stuff, and this rape culture pretty much is nothing more than history repeating itself, if you know what I mean, in American history. Because it's pretty much, all it really is it's taken from one era, repackaged, and called something else, if you know what I mean. Because, to be honest, women never really come up with anything by themselves. They come up with stuff that they remember in history, and they repackage it, and they make it their own, if you know what I mean. Hence, Me Too and hashtag believer, hashtag Me Too, hashtag believer, and rape culture. Here's what I mean by that. If you remember American history quite properly, you will realize that the hashtag Me Too and the rape culture pretty much extends back to how we used to pass laws in America, or how we used to see a certain group of people in America. Like, a good example of that is black people. When you wanted to pass a law and when nobody wanted to agree, all you got to do is say, we need to pass this law because black people would do this and then rape our women, rape white women. Okay, cool, pass. That being said, you're going to see where I'm going with this. So we basically created this rape culture based on racial tension, if you know what I mean, and racial fear, if you know what I mean. So it wasn't shocking to me that that when a white woman was caught with a black man, she would accuse the black man of rape. Rape culture, Me Too, get that? And then, like, after that, even though they walked in and seen her bouncing on him like, a pogo stick, they would automatically believe her. Hashtag believe her. So what would they do? If the black man wasn't there, or if the black man was still there, they would pretty much lynch, hang, or burn, kill, burn down his family's house, burn down a whole entire neighborhood, the whole 9 yards, for the sake of white women. So, in all technicality, you got rape culture, hashtag Me Too, and hashtag believer all wrapped into one situation. And pretty much, if you want to get technical, all those men who actually believed her and didn't really investigate the stuff technically were white knighting too, on top of that. So you got that on top of that. So I'm not shocked that this Me Too, this hashtag believer, and this whole entire rape culture narrative is being pushed in this day and age, because it was the same thing being pushed back in slavery days. And the thing about it is, the white neighborhood, the men were pretty much white knights for the most part, because they believed her and didn't believe him, so they killed him. And the irony to it is, when they go back and do the forensics and do all the stuff, they find out that this man was innocent. Forget the fact that he was innocent like several years ago. He's already dead. His family's destroyed. His family's destroyed. His household's gone, because they would literally go and burn down a whole entire freaking neighborhood over this whole entire thing. Just ask the people at Black Wall Street. Well, there's hardly any survivors left. I think they're all about almost dead. And then you also got Rosewood. They didn't make it at all. That's typically how this works. So, like, for white people I always find it funny how people are shocked when something like this comes up in this day and age, where it's like, they're like, oh, I can't believe this Me Too movement, or I can't believe this hashtag believer, or they got these shirts saying, believe her, no, I believe facts, if you know what I mean, stuff like that. The fact of the matter is, if you go back in history, women are doing nothing but repeating history and going from events in history and basically making this a thing, if you know what I mean. Because we actually created the narrative of rape culture. Men created the narrative of rape culture in slavery days because most of the laws were passed based on the fact that a black man would do something. If we don't pass this law, he would do something and then rape our white women. Here's where rape culture comes into play. So, like, when white people hear this Me Too movement and rape culture and hashtag believer, they're like caught off guard by this. When black people hear this, the first thing that pops into their mind is, remember that guy Emmett Till, or remember that guy this, or remember that guy? The same damn thing literally happened to those guys that happened to these guys. And it's sad that we live in a society and white people are caught off guard by this. It's kind of like back in the 70s when the black community was being devastated by was it heroin or crack or heroin, basically. How white people viewed it was, well, they need to better themselves and they need to get off them drugs and they just need to say no. Fast forward to 2012 to 2000 till now. The white community is being devastated by opioid epidemic and crisis. Now all of a sudden, we got to do something about this. We got to fix some stuff. We got to start putting people in rehabs. We got to build more rehabs. We got to make rehab. We got to make rehab. Our insurance companies accept rehab. I mean, rehabs accept our assurances and this, that, and the other. We got to work something out so we can get these people better. But when black people are going through this stuff, we can look the other way. Now that white people are going through this stuff, now it's a problem. And I'm not trying to make this a race thing, but I'm literally trying to remind you that nothing new under the sun. History always repeats itself. If you don't learn from your history, you would never go forward as a country or a group of people. All this stuff is now is basically slavery all over again, only white men are being thrown under the bus along with everybody else, if you know what I mean. So it's not just black men being thrown under the bus this time, white people are being thrown under the bus this time. And it sucks. So, and it's sad and it sucks. So like there's nothing that you can do. So like you do stuff like make the Mike Pence rule and stuff like that. And that's pretty much all you can really do in this day and age, because it's only a matter of time before a false allegation comes up, because it doesn't really matter if you're in a room with her or not. She accuses you of it, and it's a wrap. So now white men are actually starting to feel the pinch that black men felt back in slavery days when a white woman accused them of rape, if you know what I mean. But the irony to it is, I would say only about like 10% of the population will do vile and sick things to the opposite sex, or anybody, and not for anybody under the sun, for that matter. But we live in a society of fear, where stuff like this happens. But women want to paint all men in lights, even though it's only like 10% of the population that actually do these heinous acts and crimes, if you know what I mean. But I digress.